There were moments where I was broken, and barely holding on. Times when I questioned everything, my talent, my purpose, even my worth. I've been told no more times than I can count. I've been laughed at, passed over, overlooked. But let me tell you something. The rejection, the silence, the closed doors, that was all part of the preparation. See, when you feel like giving up, that's when the real work begins. That's when God is stretching you, molding you, preparing you for something greater. I didn't get here by accident. I got here by faith, discipline, and persistence. I kept going, not because it was easy, but because I believed there was something on the other side of the pain. And I was right. So if you're tired, if you're broken, if you're ready to give up, keep going, because the moment you want to quit is the moment right before your breakthrough. There was a time in my life when I had no idea where I was headed. I was drifting. I didn't have the plan, the clarity, the map. All I had was a small voice inside of me that kept whispering, "You're made for more." And the truth is, I didn't always believe it. There were days I felt lost, but something kept pulling me forward. And I didn't understand it back then, but I know now that something was purpose. That quiet force, that invisible thread, that inner calling that doesn't shout, but won't let you rest either. That's what carried me. See, when you're on the verge of giving up, it's not always because you're lazy or weak. It's often because you've lost sight of the reason you started. Life has a way of beating the dream out of you. You get rejected, you fail, people doubt you, and slowly that fire begins to dim. But purpose, real purpose, it doesn't go out. It might flicker, it might fade for a moment, but it never dies. And when you tap into it, when you stop asking, how hard is it going to be? And start asking, why did I begin? Everything changes. For me, acting wasn't about lights or red carpets or applause. It was about connection, storytelling, giving life to voices that had been ignored, characters that had been forgotten, people who needed to be seen. I didn't always articulate it like that. In the early days, I just knew something happened inside me when I was on that stage. Something clicked. Something felt right. And when things got hard, and believe me, they did, it wasn't fame that kept me going. It was that deeper sense that I was born to do this. I was created to do this. There was a moment I'll never forget. I had just finished a performance, and an older man walked up to me. He looked me in the eye and said, "Young man, you made me feel something I thought I'd forgotten." That was it. That one sentence reminded me that this wasn't just about me. It was bigger. It was service. It was healing. It was truth. That's purpose. And when you have it, when you really have it, it'll push you when your legs don't want to move. It'll speak to you when your mind is filled with doubt. And it'll remind you who you are when the world forgets. I've seen people with all the talent in the world give up because they didn't know they were doing what they were doing. And I've seen people with average skill change the world because their purpose was bigger than their fear. The question is never, do I have what it takes? The real question is, am I connected to something deeper than the struggle? Because the struggle is guaranteed. The pain is guaranteed. But the reward, the peace, the impact, the fulfillment, that only comes when you keep going. And you only keep going when you remember your purpose. Don't chase the outcome. Chase the calling. Outcomes fade. Applause fades. But calling sticks with you when you're broke. Calling walks with you through failure. Calling is still standing with you when everything else falls apart. If I had chased the outcome, I would have quit after my first audition, or my fifth, or my 10th. I wasn't in it for the yes. I was in it because deep down, I knew this was the path. The path wasn't always pretty. It wasn't always kind, but it was mine, and you've got one too. You may not see it yet. You may be buried in bills, stress, disappointment. But underneath all that, there's a reason you're still breathing. There's a reason that dream keeps showing up in your thoughts when everything else gets quiet. That's not an accident. That's purpose calling. And you don't need a million followers or a perfect plan or a guarantee of success. You just need to believe that the reason you started still matters. And if it still matters, then you've still got something to fight for. So when you feel like giving up, don't ask yourself how much further you have to go. Ask yourself why you started in the first place. Because the truth is, the why is always stronger than the how. Always. I know what it feels like to be counted out. To walk into a room full of people who don't see you, don't hear you, don't believe in you. I've been there. I've lived in that space, standing in front of closed doors, knocking again, waiting for someone to say, you belong. But all I got was silence. And that silence, it almost made me quit. See, early on in my life, I didn't look like what most people thought success should look like. I didn't speak like they wanted. I didn't fit into their mold. I was rough, raw, unpolished. I had talent, sure, but talent doesn't always get you through the front door. Rejection does something to you. It tests your belief in yourself. And when you've heard nah enough times, it starts to sound like truth. I started to wonder if I had what it took. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I wasn't smart enough. Maybe I should just stop trying. But something deeper inside me whispered, keep going. Not because I was certain of where I was headed, but because I knew I hadn't come this far just to give up. And that's the thing about failure. People think it means the end. They think it defines you. But I learned through bruises and broken pride that failure doesn't define you. It refines you. It carves away the ego. It burns off the doubt. It shows you what you're made of. When I flunked out of college, it wasn't the end of the world, even though it felt like it at the time. It was actually the beginning of clarity. I had to step back and ask myself what I really wanted. Acting wasn't just a dream anymore. It became a mission. I wasn't chasing applause. I was chasing truth. So I auditioned. I failed. I auditioned again. I failed again. Sometimes I didn't even make it past the first look, but I kept showing up. Every no became a stepping stone. Every closed door taught me how to kick harder. I didn't realize it back then, but all that rejection was building something in me. It was giving me grit. It was giving me depth. And one day I walked into a room, and I didn't have to pretend to be somebody else. I didn't have to shrink to fit in. I just stood there and let the truth speak for itself. That moment, that breakthrough, it didn't come because I was lucky. It came because I kept standing when everything told me to sit down. Failure has a way of introducing you to your real self. When the lights are off, when the crowd is gone, when the money isn't flowing, when the phone isn't ringing, who are you then? That's the version of yourself you need to build. The one that doesn't depend on validation. The one that doesn't fold under pressure. That's the version that lasts. I had to learn that the hard way. I wanted things to happen quickly. I wanted the success, the roles, the recognition. But what I didn't see was that the struggle was part of the shaping. God was developing something in me during those failures. A kind of patience, a kind of discipline, a kind of hunger that can't be taught in a classroom. You earn it through disappointment. You gain it by going through seasons where nothing makes sense. But you keep walking anyway. That's the truth. You can't skip the struggle. You can't fast forward through the failure. It's where your character is built. It's where your spirit gets tested. And if you can survive that, you'll be unshakable. You'll be undeniable. People will wonder where you got your strength. They won't see the nights you cried, the days you almost quit. But you'll know. You'll remember. Because every scar has a story, and I've got plenty. But I wear them with pride now. They remind me I didn't fold. They remind me that failure wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning of something greater. So if you're facing rejection, if the world is telling you no, good. That means you're on the path. Just don't stop. Let failure teach you, not break you. Let it make you stronger, deeper, sharper. Because when you come out on the other side, you won't just be successful, you'll be ready. There was a time in my life when everything around me felt uncertain, when fear whispered louder than faith, and the future looked like a fog I couldn't walk through. I didn't always know what the next step was, and I didn't always feel confident taking it. But I had something that carried me through those times. Something greater than talent, louder than doubt, and deeper than ambition. I had faith. Not just the kind you read about in books or hear about on Sundays. I'm talking about a living, breathing kind of faith. Faith that kept me standing when everything else was trying to knock me down. Faith that reminded me, you didn't come this far just to come this far. People see the red carpets, the awards, the movies, but they don't see what came before that. They don't see the moments I had to fight off fear just to walk into an audition room. They don't see the nights I sat alone wondering if I was wasting my time, wondering if I had made a mistake, wondering if I was ever going to make it. Fear was there, no doubt about it. It was always there trying to creep in, telling me I wasn't good enough, smart enough, connected enough, telling me, turn around, go back. This dream isn't for you. But faith always spoke louder, not always in volume, but in truth. It reminded me what God has for you, no one can take from you. And that truth, that belief in something greater than myself, it pushed me through. Faith gave me the courage to step up when I felt like shrinking. It helped me move forward when logic told me to sit still, because faith doesn't operate on logic. Faith moves on trust. It says, I don't know what's on the other side, but I'm going anyway. That's what I had to do. I had to keep walking even when I couldn't see the whole staircase. I had to trust the process even when the process didn't make sense. There were roles I didn't get, projects that never happened, people who doubted me. But I didn't put my trust in people. I didn't put it in Hollywood. I put it in God. I believed that every no had a purpose, that every closed door was leading me to the right one. And sure enough, it did. It always does, if you're willing to keep walking in faith instead of settling in fear. I remember early on, I was sitting in a beauty shop, not a movie set, not an agent's office, but a little beauty shop in my neighborhood, when a woman turned to me and said, young man, you're going to speak to millions. You're going to travel the world and do great things. I didn't know her. She didn't know me. But something about the way she said it, something about the spirit in her voice, I believed it. And that belief stayed with me. That was God speaking through her, reminding me this journey isn't just about you. It's about what I'm going to do through you. So when fear shows up, and it will, I don't run. I remember that fear is a liar. It tells you you're stuck when you're just getting started. It tells you the mountain is too high, when in truth, the climb is where you build your strength. Fear will paralyze you if you let it, but faith frees you. Faith says, don't worry about the outcome. Just take the step. And every time I took the step, the path showed up beneath my feet. Not always right away, not always the way I expected, but it always came. because I trusted something bigger than myself. You can't live your life based on fear. You'll always be playing defense, always trying to survive instead of thrive. But when you live by faith, you live with purpose. You understand that the setbacks are setups, the pain is part of the preparation, and the delay is not the denial. That's how I got here. Not because I had it all figured out, but because I believed. I believed in what I couldn't see. I believed that if I kept going, kept trusting, and kept showing up, the doors would open. And they did, and they still do. That same faith that carried me can carry you. When fear comes knocking, don't answer. Let faith open the door. There were days I didn't feel like doing anything. Days I didn't want to get out of bed. Didn't want to study lines. Didn't want to go to auditions where I knew they'd look me in the eye and still not see me. But I showed up. Not because I felt inspired. Not because I was full of confidence, but because I had something stronger than emotion. I had discipline. You see, the thing about emotions is they're unreliable. They shift with the weather, with the news, with what someone said to you yesterday. You can't build greatness on unstable ground. And if you wait to feel like it before you move, you'll be waiting forever. That's something I learned early on. When I was young, I didn't have it all together. I had dreams, sure, but dreams don't mean much without work behind them. There was a point in my life when I was lost, drifting, just reacting to life instead of taking control of it. Then I realized something. Successful people aren't lucky, they're consistent. They show up day after day, whether the world claps for them or not. I made a decision I would become a man of discipline. That didn't mean I wouldn't get tired. That didn't mean I wouldn't fail. But it didn't mean I would keep moving, especially on the days when I didn't feel like it. When I was struggling, I used to look at people I admired and think they must have some secret, some magic. But the older I got, the more I worked, I found the truth. The secret is showing up. The secret is doing the work when no one's watching. The secret is training, reading, rehearsing, learning, even when there's no immediate payoff. Especially then, I didn't always feel brave. I didn't always feel like a star, but I disciplined myself to act like one. You don't get the role just by dreaming. You get it by preparing so thoroughly that when the moment comes, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall back on your training. There were nights I was up memorizing lines while my friends were out having fun. There were weekends I spent alone, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to get better. I needed to focus. Discipline demanded sacrifice, and I was willing to pay that price. Because here's the truth: everybody wants the reward, but few are willing to endure the process. Discipline is what bridges the gap between desire and achievement. People look at where I am now, and they want what I have: the awards, the applause, the platform. But they don't see the years of grinding behind closed doors. They don't see the days I felt invisible and kept going anyway. They don't see the practice, the sweat, the discipline. I've seen so many talented people fall short, not because they weren't gifted, but because they relied too much on how they felt. They let discouragement stop them. They waited for inspiration. Let me tell you something. If you wait for inspiration, you'll be left behind. You don't wait for the fire, you build it. Discipline is about getting up at 5 a.m. when nobody's watching. It's about choosing your goals over your comfort. It's about doing the thing even when the applause stops, even when you're tired, even when doubt creeps in. Especially then, that's when it counts the most. Discipline taught me how to outlast pain, how to stay focused in chaos, how to remain calm in the storm. It's not glamorous, it's not flashy, but it's what wins the race. It's what builds real confidence. Not fake swagger, but the kind that comes from knowing you did the work, that you're prepared, that you didn't cheat the process. And when you live like that, no one can take your success from you because you earned it. You built it, brick by brick, day by day. So no, I didn't always feel like it. I wasn't always motivated, but I was disciplined. I showed up anyway. I worked anyway. I believed anyway. And that's what made the difference. That's how you keep going, not by waiting to feel ready, but by deciding you're ready now, not tomorrow, not when it's easy. Now, that's discipline. And that's what changed my life. There were moments in my life where everything around me felt like it was falling apart. Moments when I couldn't see the next step, couldn't hear any applause, couldn't find anyone cheering for me, not even myself. I remember being young, full of energy, but broke. Not just in my pocket, but in my spirit. I had dreams, big dreams, but the world didn't seem to care. It's in those moments, those dark, quiet, painful moments, that something happened, something that I didn't recognize at the time. I was being built. I was being shaped. Because the truth is, your legacy is not formed when the lights are bright and everything's going right. No, it's formed in the struggle, in the silence, in the moments when nobody's watching. When I was first trying to become an actor, I heard no more than I ever heard whys. I got turned down at auditions. I got told I didn't have the look, didn't have the voice, didn't have the skill. People smiled at me with sympathy, as if they were watching a man chase something he'd never catch. I remember sitting in rooms, waiting for my name to be called, knowing deep down that might not lead anywhere. But I still showed up. I still tried. Because something inside me said, keep going. I didn't know it then, but every one of those rejections was carving something into me. Resilience, patience, humility, things you can't buy, things no class can teach you, things you only earn when you're willing to walk through the fire without knowing when or if you'll come out. There's a part of you that only shows up in struggle. That quiet voice that whispers, you're not done yet. I had to meet that version of myself. Not the man in the suit, not the man on the red carpet. The man in the silence. The man who had to look in the mirror and say, this pain has a purpose. That's where the real work happens. That's where the foundation of greatness is laid. And let me tell you, that foundation, it's built in darkness, not in the spotlight. People see the finished product now. They see the awards, the films, the speeches. But they don't see the nights I laid awake wondering if I'd made a mistake, if I was wasting my life chasing a fantasy. They don't see the disappointment in my mother's eyes when I didn't know how I was going to make rent. They don't see the countless jobs I took, not because I loved them, but because I had to survive. And yet, all of that, every moment, became a brick in the house I'm standing in now. I'm telling you this because someone out there is going through their own dark moment. Maybe you feel like you're invisible, like nothing you do is making a difference, like the world has already moved on without you. But I want you to hear me clearly. That moment you're in right now, that moment you're praying would end, it matters. Because you're being prepared for something bigger than you can imagine. You're being shaped into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who can carry the weight of the blessing that's coming. You don't build a legacy when it's easy. You build it when it's hard. You build it when you keep showing up, even though nobody's clapping. You build it when you pour into your dream with no guarantee of return. You build it when you wipe the tears, square your shoulders, and say, I'm not done yet. And if you can do that, if you can keep walking when the road disappears, then when the breakthrough comes, it won't surprise you. It'll confirm what you already knew. You were built for this. So no, don't give up. Not now. Not when you're in the middle of the storm. Because storms don't come to stay, they come to pass. And when it passes, and the sun shines again, you'll look back and realize that everything, the pain, the silence, the heartbreak was working for you, not against you. Your legacy isn't written when everything's perfect. It's written when everything's hard. And you still refuse to quit.